A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. Paul and the crew aboard the ship were being pounded by the storm so violently that the next day they jettisoned some cargo, and on the third day, with their own hands, they threw even the ship's tackle overboard. Neither the sun nor the stars were visible for many days, and the storm raged. Finally, all hope of our surviving was taken away. When many would no longer eat, Paul stood among them and said, "Men, you should have taken my advice and not have set sail from Crete, and you would have avoided this disastrous loss. I urge you now to keep up your courage. Not one of you will be lost, only the ship. For last night an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood by me and said, 'Do not be afraid, Paul. You are destined to stand before Caesar. And behold, for your sake, God has granted safety to all who are sailing with you. Therefore, keep up your courage, men. I trust in God that it will turn out as I have told you.'" The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This reading we just heard is a dramatic account of St. Paul's sea journey to Italy to stand trial before Caesar. The episode entails their setting sail for Rome, the weather turning treacherous, their continuing the voyage despite wise advice to do otherwise, and their being shipwrecked without any casualties. Besides being historically true, it is also a story that tells us how to look at our own life. What happens to the characters in Paul's account happens to us as well. We're involved in the story. At the beginning, even though the weather conditions indicate an impending disaster, the crew chooses to press on. How often do we allow ourselves to be ruled by our own ideas and plans? We stick to what we want to do, even when the evidence indicates otherwise. Still, God's compassion reaches out to our stubbornness. The God in His mercy puts in our lives individuals who try to speak sense to us. In this story, as the circumstances of the sailors' lives turned catastrophic, God provided someone who offered them a new and true way of looking at reality so that they could live in hope. St. Paul had warned the crew, "I can see that this voyage will result in severe damage and loss." At that moment, St. Paul was for them a witness, someone who made them aware of something else through himself. But the sailors didn't believe Paul. And sometimes we don't listen to God when God speaks to us. But God doesn't give up on us. Yet we need to reach a point that we want God's help. How does that happen? In the story, it's when they reach a point whether neither the sun nor the stars were visible for many days. In such darkness, they lose all hope of surviving. They are in despair. In this darkness and despair, a voice from within speaks to us. "Do not be afraid. Keep up your courage." It's the Holy Spirit. Astoundingly, at this perilous moment, we're told that the entire crew listens to the least likely person, the one who is a prisoner bound in chains. It's the voice of St. Paul coming up from below, speaking to them again. Heeding his voice, they reached the shore safely. At the conclusion of the first novena prayer to Mary, we say, I fear, dear Mother, that in time of danger, I may neglect to call on you. We are speaking to one whom we believe is our advocate, our hope, and our refuge. Someone who hears us and speaks courage to us at those moments when our voyage in life is threatened by a storm, whose darkness seemingly overwhelms us to the point of despair. Mary has the power to save us because she believed the words God spoke to her. And because she believed that what was said to her would come to be, she has the authority to help us and to say with confidence, do not be afraid. Keep up your courage. Mary speaks sense to us. Her wisdom offers us a new and true way of looking at the reality that threatens us so that we can live in hope. Her grace prevents us from succumbing to our own reason by helping us to recognize the mystery of God's love at work in our life. I'd like to conclude with a beautiful quote taken from Pope Benedict's encyclical On Christ's Hope. He writes, life is like a voyage on the sea of history, often dark and stormy, a voyage in which we watch for the stars that indicate the route. And who, more than Mary, can be a star of hope for us? With her yes, she opened the door of our world to God himself. She became the living Ark of the Covenant, in whom God took flesh, became one of us, and pitched his tent among us.